And welcome into KC Sports Tonight here at KCTV5. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on a Tuesday where we've got a lot to talk to. The Red Hot Royals are just one game back of first place in the American League Central, and the Chiefs making a lot of moves today, roster decisions as cut-down day arrives with now the NFL season kickoff at Arrowhead just 9 days away. I'm Jared Koller here with Gabe Swartz, back-to-back days. You know what? You'll probably see him Wednesday as well because Marlia Campbell on a well-earned vacation through this coming Monday. However, it's a pretty big sports week around here. We got the Royals, as I said, going for the division. College football kicks off on Thursday. High school football kicks off on Friday. Chiefs roster day. We got our Chiefs special coming up on Thursday at 6:30 that you'll want to check out. So even though Marlia is out on a beach or wherever she's at, you know, the show must go on. And that's why we enlist Gabe Swartz, back by popular demand, our go-to.
Wow.
I don't know why your picture's not on the screen yet, Gabe. That's on graphics.
I've been told that you've been holding it out.
I can be bought. I can be bribed with chocolate chip cookies. All right. Before we get into the Chiefs cuts, we want to start with the Royals because they do have a game coming up here in a little bit, and it's a big game, Gabe, because after a doubleheader on Monday that went about as great as you could have hoped for, all things considered, the Royals, if for whatever reason you missed it, they won both games at Cleveland, pulling them one game within Cleveland for the American League Central Division lead. And, Gabe, if you would have told me, one, that the Royals win both games of a road doubleheader, that's rare in itself. But the fact that they did it without a starting pitcher, making it even through 5 innings.
Yeah, neither one going more than 4 2/3.
Yeah. I mean, that's
what I was
rare.
I was just about to say. If you had told me going into the day, Alec Marsh and Cole Riggins both don't go 5 innings, what happens in the doubleheader, I would have said they lost both.
Well, because the weakness of this Royals team is the bullpen, but it wasn't on Monday, and the bats picked them up, and the defense was not great, but the bats picked them up, and even though they, you know, there are times they didn't do well in runners in scoring position, Salvador Perez picked them up. I mean, I heard Josh Vernier on 96.5 The Fan postgame show. He said, yesterday was the greatest day to be a Royals fan since November 1st, 2015. I don't know if I'd agree with that, but it's in that same conversation.
I would argue that the Bobby Witt signing in February
could be. I would argue maybe the home run derby day. I mean, that was really cool. You know, I just, as far as seeing your guy on the national stage, I think that I would also say the 2017 home finale where Hosmer, Moustakas, Kane, and Escobar all walked off the field, that was pretty great.
The comeback against the Mariners earlier this year. That
was awesome. Yeah, I think there's conversation. I'd say 2016 opening night against the Mets where they beat them and they got their rings that night. But either way, the point being not to call Josh an idiot. Big fan of Josh. It's in that same conversation of a really great day because it skyrockets their not just playoff chances but their division chances to the point that Gabe did the research here. My friends, it's looking like the Royals have a pretty good shot at making the playoffs. According to Fangraphs, 89.7%. Would you agree with that, Gabe? Is it looking that rosy?
I would agree with that. They are 6.5 games clear of the Red Sox, who are the first team outside of a playoff, whether it's the Royals in currently sitting in the 5 seed in the AL, or if it's the Twins in the 6 seed. And I know that the Royals, if they win tonight, they would win the season series against Cleveland, which A, would be huge. B, it would give them the tiebreaker over Cleveland, which is much needed given that they don't have the tiebreaker over Minnesota, but would put them in first in the division and would put them into the 2 seed in the AL. So I know that they could end up in the 2, 4, 5, or 6. It's pretty unlikely that they'd end up in the 3 unless Houston continues to be absurdly hot for a whole another month. But it does feel like 89.7. I said to Marlia yesterday, I was listening to just a portion of the Red Sox broadcast yesterday when they were losing their first game of the doubleheader against the Blue Jays. Oof. This was before they had lost that game and then the ensuing doubleheader. So they had 2 losses last night, but their radio team was sounding straight up depressed about their chances of catching the Royals and mounting a comeback. So I know that there's some healthy skepticism from Royals fans. It hasn't necessarily been a group that you would believe in positive things happening unless you are a complete optimist, and I'm sitting next to one here most of the time. I know that people are having a healthy dose of skepticism on the Royals, but I think at this point they are well on their way to a blue October.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple layers to that, and you can be skeptical while also acknowledging where we are in that it's August 27th. And I'll give a shout out to a friend of the program, David Lesky. He's done the math here. Even if you don't think the Royals are that great, or if you look at, because their schedule is tough, like they still have a lot of tough games, but they no longer need to finish strong to make the playoffs. Like they
just have to finish like average.
So basically, if the Royals finish 13-17, so not great, the Red Sox would need to go 20-11. Which, the way the Red Sox are playing right now, the Red Sox are a flawed team. And the way the Royals are playing right now, a flawed team, but they're not playing at that level. That's, like, the Royals don't need to win every series. Like, if the Royals lose the series against the Astros, if they lose the series against the Yankees, I don't want to hear Royals fans saying the sky is falling, because now that might take you out of the division. But when we're talking about just making the playoffs, even if you think this team is flawed, the odds are in Kansas City's favor. And so I think that's important to acknowledge, that the bar of getting into the playoffs is not as high. Like, you don't need to be a great team to make the postseason. And then the idea that, they can't do it. Yeah, they might get in, but they can't do anything.
I don't know. Honestly, as soon as they get in, it is.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking, Fangraphs, for example, said that the Royals have a 4.1% chance to win the World Series. And for context, that doesn't sound like a lot, but no team, and this includes the Dodgers and the Yankees, who both have the best record in the league, no team had more than a 17% chance. So all of those teams are kind of in the same ballpark in terms of a game or two flips things, and there's just not an overwhelming elite team. And even if there was an overwhelming elite team in baseball, it just overwhelming elite teams don't lock anything up in playoff
last year,
baseball.
The Dodgers were amazing, and they got swept by the Diamondbacks, who were a far worse regular season team than this year's Royals squad. And Diamondbacks went all the way to the World Series. Now, there are also teams that get in. Like last year, the Marlins made the playoffs. They were terrible, and then they got swept right away.
But look at the last time that the Royals made the playoffs. The last two times.
Yes.
They were the 1 seed. They nearly were eliminated in the ALDS by the Astros. And then the other time, they were a wild card and they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
So
no, and so that's
totally
where
random.
I'm not saying you should have confidence that, this team is World Series bound, like maybe some would have had in 2015, but that's, again, not a requirement. There's no team on pace to win 100 games for the first time since 2014. And every team has flaws. Like, you go up and down look at like the Yankees, I think, are probably the best team in the American League. They're not that good outside of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Like, now those two hitters are two of the best players in the sport. So that's why they're a really good team. But it's like, the Yankees aren't unbeatable. We've seen what they do to the Guardians, and they've been one of the best teams in the league. The Astros have been better of late, but they're not the Astros that they used to be. And Kansas City swept them at the beginning of the year. It'll be an interesting measuring stick of a series coming up this week. So, for Royals fans that are skeptical to buy in, I understand. But at the same time, don't miss out on this ride, because it's not a guarantee that they're going to be back in this spot next year. I don't think, like in 2014, it felt like that was the start of something for a couple of years. This could be. I like their chances, but I don't know if it's as much of a guarantee as I felt in 2014. So I don't want people to miss out on this window not knowing when it's going to happen again. It's okay to get your hopes up and enjoy watching the boys play some ball. I think I think they've deserved that with their record of being like, this is not a team that's just beating the White Sox to get this record. No, at this point, when you're 74-58, you've earned it. Whether or not you think the on-field eye test passes that or not.
Yeah.
So.
Completely agree.
All right. And shout out Salvador Perez. Good Lord.
What a night.
I mean, let's just mention that. And picking the guys up, Vinny Pasquantino had a tough day, and Salvi just did his thing. So we'll see if they can move into first place with a win tonight. But the other big news of the day are the Chiefs' cuts. Now let's see if the deadline was 3 o'clock, Gabe. But the Chiefs don't like following deadlines.
Well, they do. They just don't like
telling
everybody else what they did.
Yeah. So
before
technically,
the
this is all according to Gabe Swartz. But the Chiefs.
Well,
no, I know. The Chiefs have today made their roster moves, cutting down to the 53-man roster for the regular season. The headliner is Kadarius Toney, not because that's a surprise. I would argue there's probably more that are more surprising, but he's the biggest name in the sense that Gabe, he has highlights in Kansas City. He has moments in Kansas City, both good and bad, and he's the one that stands out as, man, what a odd career in Kansas City.
Absolutely. I mean, it was the classic Brett Veach bet on a first-round talent. It kind of worked for the first half year when he came in 2022, and was an abject disaster last year. And then it just never got back on the tracks again in 2024. There's been plenty of debate around, at least in my social media feed, of what grade would you give the Chiefs for that trade and how would you evaluate things. I think overall you just say the Super Bowl made it a success. I mean, the punt return.
Yeah, longest in Super Bowl history.
There's some people who say, oh, you know what, the Chiefs offense in that second half had gone touchdown, 75-yard drive, right. 70-yard drive. They would have scored again. Yes, I also believe that Patrick Mahomes would have led another touchdown drive, but it's not a guarantee. And by just next-gen win probability, the punt return added 13% win probability.
Yeah.
So it was a huge swing.
Look at the year before. I would have bet a lot of money that Patrick Mahomes in the second half against the Bengals wouldn't have forgotten how to play football, essentially. Yeah. But, crazy things happen. You can't assume that would happen. You have to give him credit for what he did and caught a touchdown pass as well. Obviously, I think maybe Gabe could have scored that touchdown, but nonetheless, he caught that ball. I mean, his narrative last year is that he couldn't catch. In the Super Bowl with the season on the line, he did catch the ball.
And on the slickest Super Bowl field in history, he
didn't
had
fall
two
down.
Plays where he actually had really impressive footing to change directions, both on the punt return and on the motion.
No, it's interesting you bring up the footing because I was cutting the highlights for 6 o'clock. His touchdown against Jacksonville, he hopped in on 1 foot down the sideline. He also had another catch, I think, against Denver where he saw the ball in the air and he adjusted his gloves while the ball was in the air trajectory-wise and still caught it. And I think people forget that he had some moments that first half season that he was a Chiefs where he thought he could be a game an actual contributor, to the point that Andy Reid said he was in conversation for being the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver at this time a year ago.
That was the plan.
And it fell off, and obviously injuries are a part of it. The mental side, he had a lot of mental mistakes, and he had a lot of drops, and he's a talented player to a degree. I mean, he's elusive. So we'll see if he gets picked up elsewhere. I wouldn't be shocked if he does, and I wouldn't be.
He absolutely will.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if he contributes to a degree. But I think this absolutely was the right move, right?
Yeah, I think it's the right move. I think that a lot of the arguing on social media over whether Sky Moore at wide receiver 6 or McCole Hardman at wide receiver 7 or Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver 5, if those are the right moves. But at the end of the day, we're arguing over that when the top of the wide receiver room looks, as I said to Marlia yesterday, I think it's the best top of the wide receiver room you've had since 2019 or 2020. So overall, I don't think that they're going to miss Kadarius Toney, and I don't think Justin Ross may be back on the practice squad, or maybe he'll want to go somewhere else that
year 3
gives him an opportunity to get significant snaps, because he was on the active roster for several games last year and didn't contribute or didn't get a lot of routes to run.
He can't get open. I mean, so you're counting on him to catch a jump ball, which he's very good at, and he did frequently. Or not frequently, when given the opportunity. He was decent in jump balls. So on that note, are you okay with how the wide receiver decisions played out? Obviously, cutting Kadarius Toney, cutting Justin Ross, and cutting Nico Remigio. I'd say those were the 3 that we thought had a shot in keeping Sky Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, and I guess McCole Hardman as well. You put in that kind of second tier.
I'm good with it.
There you go, Brett Veach. You heard it.
Yeah.
Seal of approval.
I'm fine. I'm not losing sleep over the Chiefs wide receiver room this year.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting because I think last year we also looked at this wide receiver core and were more confident than we should have been. Like, they cut Amir Smith-Marset, who had a good preseason. We're like, oh, good players getting cut. And I think the same deal. We're like, oh, good players getting cut. I mean, at the end of the day, Justin Ross, Nico Remigio, I think we tend to fall in love with camp performances sometimes, preseason performances sometimes. We see a return. At the end of the day, these are bottom of the roster guys that you honestly hope you don't need. But you might. I mean, McCole Hardman caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. We'll see what kind of impact these bottom of the roster guys have. But I think this was, with a year as important as this, I don't know if it was the time to go high risk, high reward, or high ceiling, low floor. I think they went with some safer options and bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster as well. I guess he kind of maybe is a risk given his injury history, but I knowing what to expect out of him, I like their approach to the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
And it goes with that, the tight end room, because they cut Irv Smith Jr., who I was a little bit surprised because I think they signed Irv Smith Jr. not to cut him. I think they liked him. But when you draft Jared Wiley, who they also like, and now when they trade for Dallas tight end Peyton Hendershot, who's a special teams contributor, I think Irv Smith maybe wasn't working on special teams like they wanted to, and now they get backup tight end. They only gave up a conditional 7th-round pick in 2026, so you're really not giving up anything, but they end up keeping 4 tight ends on the roster, and along with those 7 wide receivers. So they've got a lot of passing targets out there. Any thoughts on the tight end room, or do we want to throw in Cam Thomas discussion as well?
No, I mean, I think it's a pretty athletic tight end room. Like Hendershot, at least the physical tools are there with him. Jared Wiley, you see there's, at least from what he was at TCU, you can see with the vision of what they think. Yeah. And I don't think that they believe that it's a one-year thing. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, if Jared Wiley has a year of 13, 14, 15 catches maybe for like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, people be like, oh, he didn't really do too much. But like Jody Fortson was really effective, right, at least in helping the Chiefs be able to run 3 tight end sets.
And if you can get in the end zone, Jody Fortson actually caught a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, so I don't think that the yardage necessarily needs to be huge for Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and like even if Hendershot contributes, I don't think any of them have to have a ton of yards for them to help the Chiefs be multiple in what they can run offensively from a personnel standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, they're in good shape.
What do you think of Cam Thomas, the trade for the Arizona outside linebacker?
I like it. I think that it's pretty telling that they don't feel super convinced that Felix has taken a jump. And that with Charles Omenihu on the PUP list, that's another thing that happened today, is that he's remaining on the PUP list, so at least unavailable for the first 4 games of the season. That it was needed. They needed more depth. And maybe in the coming hours or tomorrow we'll hear about them making a claim on someone else or attempting to make a trade for somebody else. But I don't know if the defensive end group is completely done. Maybe that's more toward the cornerback room.
Right, which is I mean, they don't have the depth on defense this year that they did last year at every level, including linebacker. Nick Bolton today said he's going to be 100% for the season opener, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I mean, the secondary is, you've got guys stepping up there at the cornerback position. I think the defense is. I don't think it's a bad thing to add the depth in Thomas, regardless of what kind of contribution he has, and without, as you said, the development of Felix Onyeudike-Uzomah. Also of note, the running back room, they kept 3 backs instead of 4, so that means Deneric Prince is the odd man out. There was some thought that they might keep 4. There's some thought that Clyde Edwards-Helaire might get cut, given he hasn't practiced or played as much throughout training camp of the preseason as maybe they would have liked. And listen, a month ago, I don't know if we would have said Carson Steele would make the team. He was almost a given at this point, but still, nonetheless, Carson Steele makes the roster. What do you make of this these running back decisions?
I think that Carson Steele had like as close to a perfect preseason showing as you possibly could have. For someone with no expectations, it felt like he came in and did every snap that he had. It was like he did exactly what was needed to end up on the roster. He played enough snaps with Mahomes in the second preseason game that I think it kind of showed you that at that point they really thought he had a spot. And it showed. I don't know what the complete expectations are for the for the running back room. I think that there's probably a decent chance Deneric Prince is back on the practice squad. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point the Chiefs are like, Jerick McKinnon, you still want to play a little bit of football, or do you want to come in?
Right now.
You didn't have to go to St. Joe, so we didn't make you go slum it in the dorms.
But if you wanted to,
if you want to come back, if you want to come back in October, maybe November, and
true.
Stay fresh. He's just somebody who that there's an immense amount of trust from Mahomes and Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and all of those guys to get him to do what they want in the offense, both as a pass protector and as a receiving option. I could see them going there because right now the running back room is not super, super deep, and it's going to be asking a lot out of Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're asking him to stay healthy and carry the workload. And Carson Steele, I think he could be a good backup. He's a different type of player than Jerick McKinnon, so I'm all for that. But I'm at the point, assuming since Jerick McKinnon is not here, that he's not coming back. I mean, yeah, maybe because, I get the St. Joe thing, but St. Joe, it's now been a little while. I think because now they bring him back, I don't think he's playing week 1. So we'll see. Either way, it's interesting roster construction. I don't think any real Luis Rees-Zammit also should mention that he was released, the former Welsh rugby star. Intriguing prospect, but just didn't really show the shiftiness or the wiggle that I think is required to run the rock in the NFL. And that's a similar thing with Deneric Prince. I know a lot of people liked him. I didn't see a whole lot of upside there. I think he was a fine backup, but I don't think he's someone you're going to be like, man, how did we let Deneric Prince leave the building if another team was to bring him up? I think he saw a depth, but I don't think I see a high-end running back in Prince. So
yeah, I mean, you've heard from Brett Veach in previous years of where he said, I think he said the year that Pacheco got drafted that he thought that there was a 1,000-yard back in the 4th round and later, and he might have found him. He might have found somebody who can be productive as an undrafted free agent in Carson Steele. So I think that the main lesson from this is when/if the Chiefs continue to just take late-round swings on running backs, if they pop, good. If they don't pop, take a swing at another one next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do this next May.
And, I mean, Pacheco's going to be a free agent, not
soon.
Too long from now.
Yeah.
I know it's crazy to think, but it's, when you draft a guy, you don't have him for 8 years, and then you question, all right, do you pay a running back? I mean, that's this vicious cycle. Most people aren't like Travis Kelce and just play year in, year out for the same team. So we will see what's on the horizon. Although I do want to say, I don't know why my brain went here, but when we were talking about wide receiver rooms lacking, and you said it's the best since 2019. I thought of the 2010 wide receiver room, Gabe. And I thought of the 2010 Chiefs won the division. They went 10-6. They hosted a home playoff game. Here are the wide receivers that played a playoff game at Arrowhead that 2010 Jared Koller is very excited for. All right. Dexter McCluster, Varan Tucker, Kevin Curtis. Those are the 3 wide receivers that got targets in a NFL playoff game. No Dwayne Bowe. Dwayne Bowe led the NFL in touchdown receptions that year. People forget that. Matt Castle was a Pro Bowler that year. They're actually good. But in a playoff game, the Kansas City Chiefs ran out Kevin Curtis in what would be his final professional game as a 32-year-old. And Varan Tucker, who, that was his only year in the NFL. And Dexter McCluster, who I believe, he went on and played a little bit with the Titans and Chargers, but not a whole lot of success. So, Chiefs fans, if you're ever feeling a little down, maybe think about how even with as bad as Gabe, which wide receiver room would you take? Last year's wide receiver room or that room?
That's
It's
do I
not
have
close.
to choose one of those two?
I'm sorry, it's not close. Rashee Rice alone is better than all of those guys. I mean, Dwayne Bowe was really good that year. Either way, also you got some crazy names on the Ravens. Shout out T.J. Hushmanzada, Anquan Bolden, Todd Heap. I mean, Willis McGahee. So we got Chiefs Ravens 9 days from now. We'll see if any of those guys make cameos at Arrowhead. Probably not. Okay, well, on that weird note, thanks for hanging out with us here on KC Sports Night. Shout out Ronnie Hawkins. And we will see you back here tomorrow. Neil Jones will be here. Will he have a special guest or will he have Gabe Swartz? I don't know. I won't be
Guess
here.
you have to tune in to find out.
Marlia's on a beach somewhere. However, Thursday, I should mention this as well before we get out of here. Thursday, we'll have Mark Palos and Kimo Hood at Children's Mercy Park for KU football season opener. We'll have me and Neil Jones in Columbia for Mizzou football's opener. Mizzou, did they adjust the rankings? Is Mizzou now 10th in the country? Or are they still 11th?
They did not. They did not. Week 0 and Week 1 all count for the same. They don't.
Stupid.
They don't make people re-vote on the AP poll just for the Florida State game.
Well, the number 10 team in the country lost, so Mizzou is now the number 10 team in the country.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that belief.
So a top 10 team in the country is kicking off in Columbia, and so we will be there live in Columbia on Thursday. High school football on Friday. We will be at all kinds of games for Missouri. Kansas doesn't kick off till next Friday, but Missouri, we will be across the city. Gabe will be here bringing you all the scores that you see on the Friday Night Blitz at 10 o'clock. So when you see
fall.
Yeah, when you see all those scores at the bottom of your screen on Friday night, know that is the work of Mr. Gabe Swartz. And especially know that if any of them are wrong. No, he batted like 1,000 last year, so knock on wood. So we've got that coming. And all while this is going on, Marlia Campbell's on a beach. So who could have a better week than us, all right? On that note, we'll see you guys back here tomorrow.